All right, guys. Last thing off the top that I want to talk about here before we get into our main topics is this. There's a little movie out right now called Spider-Man Far From Home, a Sony picture that is in the MCU. A lot of us have been excited about it. I think the trailer's been fantastic. Lots of theories going around, a lot of hype going into it. I went to go see it last night at a midnight screening last night, which I have not done in a long time. I've not gone to a midnight screening in a very long time. So I went and did that last night. And what did I think about Spider-Man Far From Home? I'll tell you this. It is a movie that I solidly enjoyed. I think this is a good movie. This is an enjoyable, fun movie. I think it has certain things that it's not quite as good at that Homecoming did. I think there's certain things that it did better than Spider-Man Homecoming did. And bottom line to me, this is what I put on my social media when it came out last night. To me, I put Spider-Man Far From Home in that conversation with MCU films that I solidly enjoyed. Films like Ant-Man and the Wasp, films like Captain America: The First Avenger, films like Doctor Strange, films that I really solidly enjoyed, I put it in there. But I don't put it on that upper tier of that top shelf MCU, you know, the place on that shelf where that you reserve for Winter Soldier, the place on the shelf that you reserve for Civil War or an Infinity War and Avengers, things like that. It's not top shelf, but it is solidly enjoyable. I had a good time. I do not think that it is some people were saying that they think it's the best Spider-Man film of all time. I don't agree. For instance, let's take a Spider-Man movie that I quite enjoyed. The first Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. You guys know, if you've watched me, I really quite enjoy that film a lot. I would say that this is better than that movie. This is better than that. But I don't know that I would say it's as good as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a very, very high bar. Admittedly, that's a majorly high bar because that was my number 3 favorite film of the year last year. I don't know that it's quite as good as Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, but I might say it's probably my 3rd favorite Spider-Man movie. Quite good. Here's some of the things I really liked about it. First of all, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's great. We heard a lot of people talking about Gyllenhaal going into this film. He lives up to everything we hoped he would be. The character is very good. The Mysterio character is very good, but Gyllenhaal is so great. He just walks in and just so naturally takes over that role. When he first pops up on screen, it's like, there's Jake Gyllenhaal. But by the very next scene, he performs in such a way that you don't see Gyllenhaal anymore. You just see Mysterio. And that was great. And I think he was a great addition to this film. I thought he was wonderful. Tom Holland, again, is great. He has become my favorite guy to play Spider-Man. I love Andrew Garfield. I love Tobey Maguire. But I think at this point, Tom Holland has become my favorite Spider-Man. He's just got this he's great at Peter Parker. He's great at Spider-Man. He's got this boyish charm. He's got this great sense of humor about him that the Spider-Man sense of humor fits so well with. And I'll tell you what else I really enjoy. While Zendaya may not be Mary Jane Watson, she is MJ, not Mary Jane. And this is a very different relationship. I was talking to Rob about this before we started the show. It's a very different relationship, the Spider-Man MJ relationship, than we get in our traditional Spider-Man stories. Again, because this isn't Mary Jane Watson. I have grown to really like the dynamic between Zendaya and Tom Holland. I really enjoy it. And normally I effing hate romances in my comic book movies. Very, very rarely do they work for me. Tony Pepper, yeah, I'll give you that one. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone in his Spider-Man movies, yeah, I like that one. But that's pretty much it. This one works for me, and I kind of find myself excited to see the next installment of Spider-Man, just so I can see these two some more and see how they evolve and go. Also, I'll say this, one of the best Spider-Man movies in terms of action. They do a fabulous job with the action in this film. And you know what? I said this to Rob too, and it's hard for me to put into really hard descriptors without giving anything away. So just let me say this. Out of all the MCU movies that I've seen, this one, and you can interpret yourself whether you think this is a good or a bad thing. I think it's agnostic. It's however you decide to take it. But this Spider-Man movie to me is the most like a true comic book story that just jumps off the page. Like we talk about like Infinity War is just like a comic book. Well, yeah, in terms of the big battles and seeing all of our heroes together. But I mean really narratively, story-wise, pacing, this Spider-Man movie felt like it came right out of a comic book. And I can't explain why without giving away spoilers. And by the way, this Sunday is going to be our open spoiler discussion for Spider-Man Far From Home. Make sure you come and join us there for that. So a lot of things to like about it. The supporting characters were solid. I love Bartolone as Ned. That was great as well. You gotta love Samuel L. Jackson, the Maria Hill character, Colby Smulders. I mean, it was well performed, well played, well casted, all that kind of stuff. And while it is not as charming as Spider-Man Homecoming, I don't think it's as charming as that. It's still quite charming on its own. Maybe not as much as Homecoming, but still quite charming on its own. There are a few things about the film that stand out to me. I saw some critics saying in their first reviews when they came out that the first half is a little slow. I would say it's more than a little slow. I'd say the first half of the film is more than a little slow. Still some very good stuff in it, but it is a very slow first half of the film as far as I'm concerned. My big gripe with Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man in the MCU, and I love Tom Holland. My one big gripe with him has been, you guys know this, you can almost say it along with me, they're trying to turn Spider-Man into Iron Man Jr. That continues, and that bothers me a little bit, but you see past it, so that's fine, whatever. But you could tell that from the trailers. You could tell that from the trailers that Marvel has this never-ending quest to turn Spider-Man into Iron Man Jr., so whatever. Some people love it, so it is what it is, whatever. I found there were pacing issues in the film that stretched beyond just the first half of it into the second. I'll say this, though. All the hype and craze you're hearing about the post-credit scenes, 100%. 100%. I can't wait for Sunday's spoiler discussion just so we can talk about the post-credit scenes. The post-credit scenes are nutty. Like, absolutely fantastic. I love them. I don't know that there's ever been better. I honestly don't think there's ever been better or more important as well. Not just that they're great, they're also important. And a lot of times MCU post-credit scenes will be just throwaway scenes. Sometimes they'll be important, or sometimes they'll be really entertaining. This is all of it. All of it rolled in there. It's important and entertaining. You're going to be talking about it, buzzing about it. Biggest reaction that the film got in the theater I was in. I don't know if it's a good thing that the best part of your movie's in the post-credit scene, but it is what it is. So, do I think this is top shelf MCU? No. Do I think it is a solid, entertaining, worthy of the Spider-Man name movie? Yes. I think this is a movie you need to get out and see. I think it's one you're going to enjoy. I had quite a good time with it. You know, again, to me, the hype of best Spider-Man movie ever, no, but that's a really high bar. One of the best MCU movies ever, for me, no, but again, that's a super high bar. This is a thoroughly entertaining film, charming, good action, fantastic post-credit scenes, wonderful performances in it as well. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like, even if it doesn't go into, you know, Infinity War territory. So that'll be up to a lot of people. Rob, I got to tell you, I know you and I are both, Rob. We're going to go see this movie. I'm going to see it for a second time later today. I know you're going to go see it later today. And I don't know, you've been as excited about it as anybody.
You know, I have, and I didn't like Homecoming as much as others
Oh, yeah,
did.
and I loved it.
And
yeah.
I thought, again, they laid too heavily into the Tony Stark relationship. I felt that Spider-Man was sort of marginalized in his own movie. And I'm curious to ask you, it's been said, Kevin Feige said that this is a capper to the entire Infinity Saga, that this really ends Marvel, the cinematic Phase 3. Did you feel that? Did you feel at the end that really the 23 movies now have had total closure and that the table is set for a whole new meal?
Well, guys, what's the proper terminology for it? There's the prelude and it's the prologue? Is that the literary term? Like the little thing they put in the story before, that's the prelude, and then there's the post thing. Anyway, if I'm using the term right, which I may not be, this is definitely a prologue to the MCU Phase 3. It really is. This is the main story. Epilogue.
Or the denouement.
Yeah,
the prologue is at the beginning.
Prologue, yeah, I call it prelude, right? Prologue, beginning. Thank you guys. This is why I have smarter people than me in the room. So to me, you know what it is? You know how in Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, they defeat. Well, somebody in this room doesn't, but they will soon. But you know, the big bad guy is defeated at the end of the franchise. But then there's still like this 15 minutes where they do some things to really set up. Now this is the world outside of that. That's what Spider-Man: Far From Home is. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very, very good way. It really does take the things. By the way, the cold open of this movie is fabulous. Anyway, they really do take the responsibility of this is the film that now defines the world after the events of Endgame. And it does a great job of that, and it doesn't waste any time getting into it. I think what Kevin Feige said was bang on the money. This is definitely a capper on the end of Phase 3.
But are there any spiders in it?
You know what? There is. I can tell you this.
Because I might just sneak in just for the post credits. I might just look at the running time and go, okay, I'm just going to watch the end credits.
Well, fortunately, this is a full hour shorter than Endgame was.
Woo!
So,
okay.
But there is.
I might be able to hold it.
I'm going to say the best way I'll describe it, so I'm not giving anything away, in sort of a dreamlike fantasy sequence, there is literally less than a second an image of a spider.
Well, I'll go with you, and you can squeeze my hand and let me know when I need to.
Okay, now you can look again. So yeah, my bottom line, guys, is I think this is a very enjoyable movie. I think it's a solid movie. It's a great capper to the one. Again, didn't blow my socks off like a Infinity War did or a Civil War did. But again, that's a ridiculously high bar. Solid, entertaining, great performances. I think it's got what a lot of people are going to be looking for. If you already got your tickets, be glad that you do. And if you don't, go book them now, because this is a movie you're going to want to see. All right, guys.